Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 1006. I am Steven in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Weather update, just in case you're wondering, Fool Spring is over in Edmonton. We had some springish-like weather, and then all of a sudden just a big, massive dump of snow, and it's currently minus 16 degrees Celsius outside, and so, yeah, winter is back at the vengeance. Feels right again. Spring was coming a little too soon, so I'm glad that we have this winter to trudge through.
Vancouver update. Rain, and more rain until July.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, it's, yeah. I don't know. I just, it's just weird. It's just weird and fun, and I kind of like it. And, will the snow be gone by the time Doctor Who comes on in April?
No, answer
April
no.
12th, probably not. That's why I brought that up, but you never know. At 1 a.m., where, of course, Doctor Who will be premiering at Mountain Time, midnight Pacific, 2 Eastern, but 8 a.m. in the UK. So no one really will be happy
3 Eastern.
3 Eastern, rather, and then 8 a.m. in the UK, which is hilarious. How many people are going to get up at 8 a.m. to watch Doctor Who, I wonder?
You? Well, you won't.
Well,
you will get up at 8 a.m. British time to watch Doctor Who, actually. So
yeah, I know. Like it's going to be like Saturday morning cartoons, which I don't think was a thing in the UK, but it was for us growing up in the 1980s.
Well, it hasn't been a thing since, I think, the 90s.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's a long
It definitely was a thing in the 80s, because I do remember watching Saturday morning cartoons in the early 80s, but I think maybe the mid-80s it petered out.
Oh, come on. I watched them in the mid-80s, Warren, just because you grew out of it, because you're 5 years older than us.
Calm down.
Don't step on my childhood, Warren. Why are you ruining my childhood, Warren?
Listen, there's a big lineup of Hollywood studios more than willing to ruin your childhood. I'm somewhere near the back, okay?
They are actively hoping to court my dollars so they could ruin my childhood.
Yeah, I
didn't. A profit.
I didn't make the prequels. I didn't add a lady to Star Wars, the ultimate crime.
That's true. Come on. We already had one. Why do you need another one of the movies? Come on.
Why is she the central person? I'm so hurt. I'm so damaged. Anyway, relitigating an idiotic argument from like 10 years ago, but whatever.
2 women in Star Wars. What are we doing here?
Argument isn't even that legitimizes it to an extent I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
A dumb yelling by idiot crybabies. How about that?
Star Wars Andor, by the way, is of course premiering the week after Doctor Who. We still, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, because when that German trailer leaked, 2 weeks ago now, we thought,
something like that, yeah.
It's only a matter of time, only a matter of minutes until the full trailer comes out. No, nothing. No Doctor Who push from Disney at all so far here in North America, outside of the German one, which of course has been taken down because it came out too early. So yeah, we've got a couple of pictures which have already come out, and nothing so far. They've been more focused on Daredevil, that launch, and now the Andor thing kind of took over Disney this past week. They did like a live stream Q&A with Tony Gilroy and everything, and I see that the Percy Jackson show has been renewed for season 3, even though season 2 doesn't premiere until like December, I think. But that's been a big hit for them.
They've spent the least amount of money on Doctor Who of all those things, so they're going to promote it the least, presumably.
Yeah.
And also you got the BBC on backup for a lot of that, so. And also they have to navigate around the BBC, probably, in some ways, whereas you don't have to do any of that with this Disney stuff.
I suppose not. Anyway, we're less than a month away from new Doctor Who on April 12th, which... as I said, I'm excited. I mean, like I said, I'm mostly excited because of staying up to 1 a.m. to watch it, because I think
you're a weirdo.
The viewing experience will be pleasurable. You know, it's like I get to build up the whole day and then watch Doctor Who, and not even worry about like putting my phone on airplane mode, as I always have to do otherwise. You know.
See, whereas I'm like, I get to get up, sit around in my PJs and watch Doctor Who while I'm eating cereal. That sounds ideal to me.
There's your Saturday, like, you're going to flip over, like, okay, I'm going to watch Pound Puppies, and then I'm going to watch Astro Boy, and then I'm going to watch Doctor Who.
You can create your own Saturday. Honestly,
you
what's stopping anyone from creating their
Nothing.
own Saturday morning playlist of cartoons and
Nothing
Doctor
at
Who
all.
and whatever?
No,
Exactly.
you can do it. The world's your oyster.
Except nowadays you can add Bluey in there.
Bluey, that's right. The real
I know it exists. That's about the extent of what I know about Bluey. And don't explain it because I don't care.
No. Bluey's a big deal. Bluey,
Sure.
Bluey, I think, like, represents like 9% of all of, like, Disney Plus viewing. I saw some crazy stat the other day.
I'm sure if you're an adult with children, you know what Bluey is, but I am not an adult with children, so I don't.
It was posited that, and I don't know how much credence I can put in this, but the basically Disney got Doctor Who because BBC Studios have control of Bluey outside of the UK, and I'm wondering
I did
maybe
not know
if
that.
there was a thing that you can take Bluey, but you got to take Doctor Who. Fine.
That old trick.
But I don't
used
know.
to use that in the network days.
Yeah,
where it's like, well, you can run this, but you got to run these two pieces of crap too at the same time.
I've been digging into that because I heard about it, but I don't know where the timelines work out, because I feel like Bluey came on a lot earlier, like premiered on Disney Plus well before Doctor Who is even coming back. But maybe it's been in the works for that long. I don't know. Anyway, Chris, you were saying.
I was going to say sometimes those forcible purchases can work out, like back in the day when DS9 was sold and you had to had to buy the Untouchables, otherwise you couldn't have DS9. I mean, I like the Untouchables. It was a good enough show.
Right. I don't remember that. I never watched the Untouchables.
I do vaguely remember it existing, yeah.
It's not the Brian De Palma movie as a show, is it? Okay.
No.
But it was inspired because of the success of that. See, people talk about how Hollywood is bankrupt now. Hollywood has always been bankrupt of ideas. Like, remember, there was, it went the other way with all the Saturday Night Live sketches that became movies, some of which were successful and some of which weren't. But there were always tons of movies that became TV shows that every once in a while, like MASH being the perfect example of a successful one.
Yeah.
But there was a million littered on the graveyard of failed TV shows as well. That were all like the Ferris Bueller's Day Off TV show.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right.
For instance, to name but one, because I can't think of, there's tons of other examples. I'd have to go on the web and figure out what they are, but yeah.
Indiana Jones had a TV
there's
show.
two of those. Tales of the Gold Monkey and Bring Him Back Alive. Why do I know this?
What? Wait, what? I thought I'm just talking about the Young Indiana Jones Adventures.
Oh no, these are ripoffs of Raiders that came out about a year later.
I
One
didn't
of them
know
was
that.
Bruce Boxleitner. I think Bring Him Back Alive was a Bruce Boxleitner one, but I'm not sure.
Wow.
Scarecrow himself?
I mean, in his prime,
Sheridan.
like at age 30 or whatever he was at the time, like, Tron era, not a bad Harrison Ford substitute, honestly, for TV.
Right. Wow. Gosh. TV's been a wasteland, which is why we've been watching it for as long as we have.
Yep.
Yeah. This weekend sees the opening of the Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder at the Comic-Con Museum in San Diego. It's there for an entire year, March 15th through until March 14th next year. I'm hoping to get there maybe during the Gallifrey 1 trip, perhaps. Towards the end of its run there, unless the unlikely event that I go to Comic-Con, which is I've blown off for 3 years in a row now, given that 1 was the strike, 2 was money, 3 this year. Well, maybe there won't be anything Doctor Who related there, so maybe that's why I won't go.
There are external political
That
considerations,
too. Yeah,
nationalistic considerations.
Exactly. Yeah, like if I have to go to America, they're going to confine it to 1 trip, which is Gallifrey 1, and I'm not going to America.
Exactly.
I'm going to Gallifrey 1, this little enclave.
I'm going to the country of Gallifrey 1, an independent in my head nation state.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I'll work it into that and go next year. Anyway, we have a short chat with Steven Swaby, who's the curator of the museum, coming up later in this show. Also want to give a shout out to the Merseyside Doctor Who Group, who meet up monthly and sometimes focused on the works of one creator or something during the course of their meetup. And this weekend, as last night, as you hear this, they focused on dear old Radio Free Skaro on our 1000th episode and are playing a few selected highlights of the most recent years because no one can bother to listen back to the olden days. But so thanks Merseyside Doctor Who Group. That's awful kind of you to give us a look in, give us a focus for one night in Merseyside, which is near Liverpool. But I don't want to like say in Liverpool because that would probably like start a civil war or something like that. So,
well, it's
yeah.
Again,
the Mersey River is kind of
it's there,
and
but
that runs through Liverpool.
That's true.
Hence ferry across the Mersey.
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah.
Other things.
Yeah. Is that Herman's Hermits or is that?
How dare you?
No, who is it? Who's ferry across the Mersey?
Frankie Goes to Hollywood, man. They did the definitive version.
Isn't the Quarrymen like the Proto Beatles? Isn't that who did Ferry Across the Mersey? Or am I wrong?
No,
about
I think
that?
it is Herman's Hermits. I think you'll have to look that up.
Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Jerry and the
Pacemakers.
Pacemakers. That's right.
Maybe I heard a redo of it by the Quarrymen.
Amusingly enough.
Which they should have kept that name, by the way, in tribute to Doctor Who, which didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
Like I say, the definitive version is Frankie Goes to Hollywood in the 80s.
Sure. Oddly enough, Jerry and the Pacemakers, 40 years later, would just advertise on CNN for pacemakers because the target audience had grown up.
I'll take
with
that
them.
over the endless ads that tell me that this antidepressant drug can cause depression. I'm like, well, what's the point then, Jardine, or whatever the hell you're called?
Exactly. Think about that
As
when
you show
buy
me pleasant B-roll of people in a park.
as you buy your walk-in bathtub. Anyway, so there you go. That's our shout-outs. Also, one more shout-out just floated down the line as we press record. Our good friends Neil Perryman and John Williams, ex of Tachyon TV, way back in the day in the late 2000s where we first got onto Tachyon TV. Anyway, they've got a new podcast called World of Telly coming soon. A teaser trailer dropped with a animation done by our good friend Grant Kibble-White, who has done so much for this podcast, like design our logo and make our Paul McGann video for our 1000th episode. And so naturally he's been seconded to do some of that because he's worked with Neil before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I have no idea what it's about other than Neil and John are talking about television. So that I'm there.
Those are two cats who know some television. So
yeah, so they're both on the Blue Sky, but their trailer dropped on YouTube. So links in the show notes if you want to subscribe to that for future updates. I know that I did. So welcome back to the podcast game, Neil and John. Stick around for another 1006 episodes, and you could be like us.
That's not an offer of any sort. That's a threat.
It is a distinct threat. Speaking of podcasts, David Tennant does a podcast with, interviewed Russell T Davies in his most recent episode. And of course, the Radio Times and everyone else has made about 80 different articles based on three things said.
It's almost impressive in a way.
It is. I mean, I found. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it even three things?
Well, I mean, I think
the main thing I see taken away from it is RCD talking about how the talks for his successor have begun.
Yeah,
and Moffat has said it's not me.
It's not Moffat.
I mean, I have nothing against Moffat. I think he's a great showrunner, but we don't need to keep cycling through the same three guys. Like that's a silly thing that only fans think is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, was it? It was the podcast. This podcast, right, where RTD came out and said that one of the reasons he came back is that they needed a producer who could handle all the executives at Disney or some such.
Yeah,
and he does fit the bill on that. So.
It was, he was sort of that person to be, like I could take all the the grief from TV executives and everything like that, and that's kind of one of the things that he came back to do. What's interesting is this interview was recorded in October, because in it he describes a night shoot on the War Between the Land and the Sea, or a stunt sequence or something that was reported in the set reports and stuff. So people have dated this to October. So it's been in the can for quite a while. So it's interesting that he's already been talking about like successors at that point. Because that was months ago. What's also interesting is that he said he's working on a new Channel 4 script, which of course that was announced. I don't remember the name of the show now, but it was announced like last month or something like that. So that's been in the works for quite a while already too. So I feel like even then they sort of realized we're in for a bit of a break when it comes to making Doctor Who, because I'm going to write this thing and we're going to finish making War Between, and that might be it for a while.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, which is telling even then. So that was something to be interested in. Also, interesting when he talks about, David Tennant talks about the time when Russell and Julie actually asked him to be Doctor Who. They talked about that a bit, and the way Tennant says it is that they asked him over to their place on the second last night of shooting of Casanova. And they showed like Pyramids of Mars or something like that, and then broached the question. So you seem to like Doctor Who. What would you say if we offered you this? And that's when he famously paused and says, "I want a coat that goes down to here." What's interesting is that Casanova started shooting in October. I looked it up. There's like a press release about Casanova coming to BBC Three, and it was a 3-part series, and they started shooting in October. I don't know when they finished it, but it was before the end of 2004, because that's also what David Tennant said. So that gives a bit of a timeline as to when Eccleston was out as Doctor Who. It was, because I think
March for when the public found out.
Yeah, but like when they were shooting it, you could tell, because in the Doctor Who Confidential, when they're shooting Empty Child, Doctor dances, and one of the kids asks, "Are you Doctor Who?" And Eccleston goes, "I am. For now, I am." And people have said, I think Camille Couture in an interview recently said that everyone went away at Christmas and came back, and everyone was all like miserable and stuff and like down and depressed. And I think at that point, sometime Eccleston said, "I'm out as Doctor Who. F this." And so very quickly,
probably said that very thing.
Yeah, very quickly, Russell T Davies and Julie Gardner pivoted right to David Tennant, who they were working with at the time, shooting Casanova, and says, "Would you like to be Doctor Who?" So like it must have happened very quickly, because if it's like November, December maybe for Casanova, probably not even that, because there's only 3 episodes. It was probably like October or November. Like when you think about that, that is very early days for Eccleston to like say, "I'm out," or perhaps for the production team to say, "You're out. We're not seeing eye to eye on this thing." So
I'm relitigating 20-year-old Vam, but the fact that they left that clip in that he says "for now," I'm like, you'd think somebody eagle-eyed would go, "Hey, don't put that in there."
I know, yeah. Or were they doing that to? Well, no, maybe not.
Or force his hand. We could rewrite history all we like here, but I do it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, given that that whole thing is still really like the details of which have yet to really come out. We have yet to have a trials and tribulations of what happened when it comes to the departure of Christopher Eccleston, that we're still having to piece together interviews from 2024
True.
To try to
until
determine
he just
what it happened.
outright says, and then it's only his part of the story. So
yeah, that too. So anyway, it's an interesting listen. David Tennant does a good podcast with him. So there you go. Links in the show notes if you want to have a boo yourself there.
Not to throw matches on gas here, but right. I mean, what would they do for the next show, if there is a next showrunner? That's another question right there.
Yeah, no. I know. How fun celebrating the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who by looking at its uncertain future. But
well, that's right on the money.
I know. So. I mean, that's a good question, Warren. I mean, if Disney isn't even involved anymore, I mean, do you need to have someone who doesn't have to stand up to 1,000 different,
that's true.
Network interference?
Disney might not be, and which changes the calculus quite a bit. So I'd say get some British wonderkind in that case, whoever that might be. But then Star Wars has done some wonderkinds, and it hasn't quite worked out. Ashoka, well, not Ashoka's Filoni, but the other one, Acolyte, was it could have been better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and they certainly aren't making the second season of that. I mean, we've gone back to Andor because Tony Gilroy, who's objectively not a Star Wars fan.
No, but he got pulled into Rogue One to quote unquote fix it after Gareth Edwards, who isn't a bad director, but I guess it just didn't mesh with what they wanted. So, although you can kind of tell where the seams are there, because all the space battle stuff, I think he did that, and that stuff is phenomenal. But anyway. we could speculate forever on that too. But
I think all the ATST and Rogue One is due to Gareth Edwards, and all the
the war movie stuff is his, and then the drama is probably
Tony Gilroy. Yeah, because he certainly made that the focus of Andor.
But that's us guessing after the fact. We don't actually know any of it.
Yeah, even then we don't know. So I don't know. I don't know what the writing / show running community. I mean, Chris Chibnall went on about how no one knows how to be a showrunner anymore because writers aren't involved outside of the writer's room. They submit their script and then, are dismissed essentially. And
that's America too, not just England. So.
Yeah. Well, especially America, and it's sort of creeping into England. So I don't know how you make a show like Doctor Who anymore,
Well, it could be that nobody knows except for Russell T Davies and a couple other people.
Right.
So.
This is why they keep cycling through Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat, but no one's getting any younger. So it's you're right. They do have to sort of have like a 35-year-old wonderkind who his first Doctor was like the second season of David Tennant,
So honestly, at this point, you do need somebody whose foundational knowledge of this show, if they have any, is new Who, quote unquote. Much as I'm a huge classic Who fan and old nerd, I know if this show wants to remain healthy, you don't get somebody in who said, I love Pyramid to Mars like I do. You get somebody in who is like, maybe Tennant was their doctor or whatever, which is statistically the most likely.
Right. Yeah. And,
there's a few names that run around my brain as potential replacements.
Like who? Yeah, you watch UK TV a lot more than us.
None of them fit that bill. Well, the two that come to my mind are Toby Whithouse and Pete McTighe.
But they're also like they've already worked, there's already a line of succession there. It just feels like I want somebody like completely
out of the blue,
a clean
by
break.
Definition, we don't know who that is. Yeah.
I don't want someone who's written for the show before. I think the next showrunner needs to know the show. I just think you can't just bring in a complete new. You wouldn't bring in somebody who's never read a Shakespeare play before to direct a Shakespeare play. I mean, I think you have to have sort of some appreciation of the material and the canon, or at least the concept, I think, in order to run a show about it. Otherwise, you might go, why is it a police box? I don't even know what that is.
Certainly the concept of mythology. Yeah.
The other thing is that the climate of 2005 television, both in England and America, was completely different than it is now. Like there's a whole basically 2 generations of people who watch YouTube more than they watch TV. Yeah. So how does that affect it, if it does, right? Like how does prestige TV or lack thereof, how does all the money that was sloshing around but maybe isn't anymore, all those things kind of factor into this.
And bear in mind, we're at about 20 years for the existence of YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's another telling thing, actually, that, Russell T Davies was sort of saying it in jest a little bit about like when he goes out for the night, he leaves his TV on. Even though he's not in the house, he leaves it on because he just in case it triggers in the ratings or something like that. Like, and then he joked about it. He says, "I'm the last terrestrial TV watcher in the UK," and it says, "Okay, this explains a lot. This explains a lot why he's still beholden to the Saturday Night View, because maybe in the back of his mind he still says, you know what, I'm still going to make this prime viewing on Saturday nights like it was in the 1970s and it was in 2007, when, let's face it, everyone has kind of moved on from that, and now it's just it's this weird oddity in the middle of all the variety shows and light entertainment stuff like Strictly Come Dancing, and
I mean, I would guess England is a little more appointment viewing than, say, America is, just because of the culture and the way TV is foundational to that for them. But
I mean, it's not like the overnights on Saturday night on BBC One was doing gangbusters. Now that's available on iPlayer. I mean, people are probably waiting to watch it the next week or something like that. I don't know.
You can't change progress, etc., etc.
Yeah, whoever runs it. I mean, move it to Wednesdays. See what happens, go
up against Corey. There's a great record for that.
Not even
Corey, which still that lumbering beast that cannot be Sloan. I don't know.
Sloan.
Slade.
Yeah. Who knows? It's good. Anyway, it's gonna, as we keep bracing everyone, it's gonna be a while. It takes a long time, way too long to make a TV series these days. It's gonna take at least a year If they decided to press record right now, if they had a script, a bunch of scripts, which they probably do, and well, they do have one TARDIS set, and they had maybe a new Doctor to shoot, they could, even if they started right now, it would still take a year for a new season of Doctor Who to come out. So.
But unlike the old days, we'd find out about being canceled way sooner before we ever saw anything, as opposed to the old days where it's like, that show's gone now.
Yeah.
And you just didn't know about it till it was gone.
Yeah.
If you even found out then.
They'll let it fade out, yeah.
There's no fading out anymore. You will find out at some point if they were to change anything about it. So.
No, it's not like Peter Gagine just going to say, oh yeah, it's just coming back. Just there might be a bit of a pause, but it's coming back. And then just like, okay, everyone, no one's looking anymore. Okay, just shovel it away. Okay, it's gone. Okay, good, we're done.
Yeah, they're all talking in hushed tones.
Yeah, John Nathan Turner sitting in his office for 18 months going, so, next season? Yeah, just, we'll get back to you. Oh, no, you're gone. Happy days. Happy 20th anniversary of Modern Who, everyone. Let's talk about some...
Or maybe it's gone after
maybe it's gone.
leaves.
Maybe
My initial assessment was correct, just delayed.
He just delayed. Yeah, exactly. Chris came when he paused it, and we thought Russell T Davies is brought back to kill Doctor Who. Thinking, what? Yes. On purpose? Well, not on purpose,
the worst thing about all this might be Chris being right about something. I'm against that completely.
To be fair, Chris, you didn't think that, okay, bring it back and then kill it within 2 years. That was not your intention of your statement at the time, right, Chris?
Well, I don't remember now.
Yeah, he didn't have murder in his heart, I don't think.
No, it was just pessimism.
No, I mean, RTD didn't have murder in his heart. He didn't mean to kill it in this hypothetical construct we've had.
No. Anyway, on other things. The second Doctor Who production diary, the Troughton Years, is available for pre-order. It doesn't come out until next year. Next year from Telus Publishing, but it's available. I got the ebook when the first one came out. The William Hartnell was what an invaluable thing. David Run has put together an amazing collection. Basically it's a book about all the internal office memos, but he works it out into a bit of a narrative and dates and split off into different kinds of like what happened this day and what kind of category, like production, show, that sort of thing. Amazing book, that first one. When this one comes available for the digital edition in 2026, I am 100% going to be getting that. But the paperback is available for pre-order right now. Links in the show notes. Telus Publishing. Cannot recommend these series of books enough. They're probably close to 500 pages worth of stuff in there. So yeah, even the date is tentative. I should say that published in February of 2026. But Telus says this date is tentative and may well be earlier. It depends on how long the book takes at the edit stage. So this is how far in advance they're working on this. But keenly recommended, especially for people like brains like mine, like just to go back and look at what happened on this date and when did this happen.
Your brain is absorbable.
Yeah, well,
it absorbs things.
It does, and it's books like this,
and it's slightly in bad taste.
I suppose
and contains Shirley Henderson.
There you go.
That too. Voice of Abu Frick. Also from Telus Publishing this weekend is Evolution of the Toy Dalek: Collecting Through the Ages by Alex Storer. That came out this weekend, March 15th. It says available for a pre-order, but it's out because they tell us even published some pictures of the book launch. So there you go. That's come. That's out now. Evolution of the Toy Dalek, perhaps as seen in Doctor Who, because Doctor Who has used toy Daleks multiple times.
It's a really cool cover. I like how they've got these little Dalek extensions. Whatever comes off the front of them is kind of aimed at the center of the cover. It's neat.
Yeah. Be it eye stalks or clamps or suckers or stuff like that.
Different variations thereof, with the flaming Dalek, which is the coolest one.
Do you have a flaming Dalek?
I think
I do
Dalek.
somewhere, yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot
somewhere
of
in the bin.
I imagine the last half of that book is just the character options years.
I would assume so.
Yeah, because that's... because there's been a lot of Daleks that come out, about which more a little bit later about character options. But first, there's okay, how do you say this? Amigahumi? No, how do you pronounce that? It's a crochet book.
Amigo Humi, I guess?
Amigahumi.
Yeah. Amigahumi. Crochet Adventures in Time and Space is a book coming out. It's an official Doctor Who book about crochet Doctor Who in August of 2025. It's by Liz Ward. The Doctor Who Instagram page shared some photos of some of these patterns, crocheted patterns of all the Doctors Who in crochet form. They're adorable. They're adorable kids. Yeah. So if you're a crochet person,
and many Whovians that cross that Venn diagram's a circle.
That's true. This book is for you. There's some adorable little things. So there, the book's coming out in August rather. So yeah, these are pretty cool. Pretty cool little crocheted Doctor Who things. So well done. I know nothing of crochet. I always joke to Erica. No. Well, I just think is crochet knitting? It's not. It's not knitting apparently. No. Nor is it sewing.
Do not throw raw steak into that debate. No.
They are related pursuits, but they are not the same.
They're like needles and thread in both of them, but crochet is different.
Yarn and hooks for crocheting.
Yeah, see, that's how little I know.
Is Linux BSD? There you go. There's another grenade for you.
Yeah.
of equivalent.
I'm sure there's much more to it than I say as well. So.
Yeah. Being in the home of a knitter.
Like Warren says, there's a very distinct crossover in the two fandoms, the two pursuits.
Mm-hmm. Also coming September 2nd, 2025, according to Chris's digging through Amazon.co.uk, is a new book called Doctor Who: The Monster Makers by Alan Barnes with illustrations from Lee Sullivan and Mike Collins. Do you know anything else about this book, Chris, apart from what you pasted here?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Well, there we go. Spoiled the launch of that one too, so that's coming.
With no info whatsoever.
No info, but we know it's coming. So well done. Well done, us. Good job. What else we got here? Oh, you know what? I want to talk about, since we're talking about Tat and stuff, the character options snuck out a first of 5 exclusive sets for Doctor Who in 2025. That being a brand new third Doctor figure with an entirely new sculpt of John Pertwee's head, along with a full-size sonic screwdriver with a little maggot. It's a toy maggot. It's not a real maggot. And the Kronos crystal from the Time Monster. Yeah.
I was reading something about this being like the most using some sort of like newer technology, newer whatever,
sculpting process
to have the face be more realistic than.
I mean, I'm looking at 3 right now. The OG one, it looks fine. Like this one does look better, but there's nothing really wrong with the original as far as
yeah. I mean, the hair is different too. The hair is more closely aligned to the title sequence hair, I find, and so it's not quite the
flatter
bouffant
hair. Yeah,
yeah. This is definitely this feels oddly enough like a season 8 Doctor, if I'm completely honest, which of course is not the Time Monster or the Green Death.
It's a bit of a mishmash, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. So I wonder if the other 4 sets will be similarly themed new Doctor sculpts with their appropriate sonic screwdriver with them.
You've got to think Tom Baker is going to be one of those.
Well, it has to be. I mean, right? I mean,
because there's a variant. I don't think they've done the later seasons with the red coat. Or maybe I'm wrong about that.
They've done the red coat. They've done the red coat. Oh, yeah.
There's got to be one they've missed somewhere in there. And Tennant's got to be one of them. I mean,
yeah, I think if you're gonna do Sonics, let's see. If we started with 3, 4, 5, you're gonna do a 4 to Doomsday, 5th Doctor one maybe. No,
also, this might be a way to unload Sonics. Like so what? Maybe not enough people have bought the Shooty one, and they're gonna have variants of Shooty as a figure. So why not put that out, right? So
that would be good.
I don't know what the sales figures are for the Sonic, but I'm just saying.
No,
if you've got planned new molds and they have to for Shooty, then why not throw the Sonic in there as well, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to be the classic Doctors. It's just where our brains go.
I know. I like Chris's idea of the full-size broken Sonic from the Visitation.
Hell yeah.
On fire. Actually, just pull it out and it's on fire.
Doesn't make sounds. It just sits there and burns. That's all it does.
With bonus, what's his name? The actor guy. Action Dolly. I would buy the set just for that.
The Pteroleptal one with the...
yeah, get a Pteroleptal and what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Richard Bass.
Yeah. He's got a... Pteroleptal's got a button on the side that when you press it, it says, drop the sonic device.
Oh, that'd be so good. And then you pull his head off and it's Brian Pern.
And you just keep pressing it, drop the sonic device, drop it.
Or Matt Berry, because there is a Toast of London joke where he's in a Doctor Who. A completely different Doctor Who.
Is there really? I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's a completely made up. Looking terrible, not terrible, but classic Who, right? And with Matt Berry's voice in there somewhere.
Not like extras with David Tennant's guest spot on there.
I don't even remember that.
Oh yeah, no, Ricky Gervais is playing some sort of like slug kind of thing.
I do. Yeah. Which looked more like classic Who.
It totally did, yeah, but it shot in the style of new Who. Yeah, that was a classic David Tennant cameo. So I don't. Yeah, we're just speculating. Maybe all 5 sets aren't going to be just doctors with their sonic screwdrivers.
That's true too.
There might be other sets, but
could be something else.
One does seem to get the impression that this is the theme that they're going with, which is maybe they finally put out a Patrick Troughton one with literally just a pen light, which is all that was.
One of them could be Sarah Jane Smith in the Sonic lipstick. For all we know.
There we go. A River Song one, perhaps. I don't know. I feel
we've never had a full size Sonic lipstick, have we? So.
There were definitely Sonic lipstick toys.
Okay, I'm wrong then.
I don't know. I know the River Song one's been out there.
It's stuck in my brain, rightly or wrongly. One of them was like UV light or something to see invisible.
Like in like a little book, and you used to like look at. Yeah, that does ring a bell. It does ring a bell. I think. I mean, I think that. The Capaldi figure could do with a bit of a refresh. The one I have is like
that's true too.
The first one, it just feels like, does this actually look like Peter Capaldi? I'm not too sure. So maybe,
and I wouldn't mind having that Sonic too. So
yeah, it's Peter Capaldi. I might break my rule and get a second Peter Capaldi because
I mean, I broke. I don't really have a rule, but I did get modern Paul McGann Doctor just because I like that costume better, but. The rule is all the classic doctors are on the lineup of doctors. So modern Paul McGann is standing by my 3D printed secondary control room, as is Millie.
Nice work.
Yeah, the only thing I'm seeing is the set with a watch and Sonic lipstick that just makes sounds.
No, and no actual lipstick. Well, what's the point? Make it a functional lipstick at least. Anyway.
Yeah, Steven needs to look pretty.
Yeah. I love dollies. Anyway, Simon Guerrier.
I hate him.
Yeah, Simon Guerrier actually produced Terror of the Suburbs with Matthew Sweet, the short clip of which I think he and his brother Thomas as well, who of course did many a thing for the DVD range back in the day. So I'm glad to see them back on the Blu-ray range as well. Anyway, Matthew Sweet hosted that, and Simon posted some behind-the-scenes photos on his blog.
I'm looking at the camera right now. That's immediately what I went towards, the camera.
Yeah.
A Sony FX something or other.
Is that a good camera, Warren?
Yes, it's pretty decent, as I recall. I can't tell exactly which model it is, but am I saying this?
FX
no,
Lion,
it doesn't.
FX Lion Nano 2?
That's just the battery pack. But yeah, the FX, Sony professional cameras.
FX6, if I'm reading this correctly.
Sony hasn't done great in the consumer space in quite some time, but they still rule the roost and have for decades in the broadcast, prosumer and like broadcast space. They still make the best, some of the best stuff. I mean, TV people tell me otherwise, but also I'm getting real Britain vibes just by seeing a Pret a Manger at Costa Coffee just sitting there. It makes me, I want to go back.
Oh, I know, right? I know. You've been, both of you have been back in recent months, basically. I have.
Yeah.
Been
since August.
It's been almost a year for me, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been since 2017, which is a shame. That's almost 10 years ago now. That's awful. We gotta go back.
I'm thinking not this year, maybe next year, going to Paris and Italy because I've never been either, but there's nothing stopping me from doing a stopover in England on the way there or the way back.
Right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean,
except for continued employment.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Well, that too. I mean, I always thought that it would be a neat thing to be able to go and do a Doctor Who set visit. But hey, as we described it earlier in the show, might be a long time. It's one of those things happens.
One more thing about this camera. This behind the scenes thing. I see from one of the behind the scenes photos, the cameramen are wearing shorts. The universe is unfolding as it should. Yeah. That is what cameramen do. They wear shorts.
They do. Reason. Yeah. -15 shorts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of the news guys are very rude.
Okay.
Chris has found something.
Sorry. I was looking at stuff because there's the interview with Dr. Rupa Huck that Matthew Sweet does. I'm like, I wonder if it's any relation to Connie Huck, Charlie Brooker's wife. And she obviously has her own career beyond that. But
there's probably a whole lot of Hucks.
But the name sounded familiar. Yeah.
Because I don't know how common they're sisters. Yeah.
So. Okay. Well, there you go.
This is, of course, all on the Season 7 set, which is out in the UK, available for pre-order in the US, frustratingly currently unavailable on Amazon.ca here in North America.
Victim of the trade war, not really.
Not really, and as we said before, the BBC shop is curiously, there's been no updates on that shop for months, literally months, since before Christmas, so that's not even an outlet anymore. So sadly, places like Amazon seem to be our only outlet right now for some of these things, so boo. But what can you do? Savages still not even available anywhere on Canadian Amazon. I haven't checked American yet, but...
it'll come.
I suppose.
Where are you at with your 25?
I haven't gotten back to it, oddly enough.
Still?
I watched all of The Last of Us again because the season 2's coming up. So you know what? Let's pop that on. And I was depressed all week. That's not a fun show. It's a good show,
that's
but
part of why I'm not watching it, because it's depressing.
It's depressing. Very well made in Alberta and very depressing.
Well, the new season's made here, I believe.
It is, because the game is set. The second game is set mostly in the east, in the west coast rather, and not in Alberta.
That makes sense then.
Yeah, when they first announced, I guess they've ditched Alberta. The locations don't match anymore, so that's why they didn't shoot season 2 in Alberta. Everyone calm down. But
so they've gone where every space show of the mid-2000s went. The forest in Coquitlam.
That's true, but that's where
Coquitlam lives.
The game is set too, so So anyway, I watched that. So no, Chris, I haven't dipped back. I have yet to watch the special editions of Silver and of the other 3, other than the Happiness Patrol. But the Happiness Patrol sets such a bar that I feel like, oh man, what are the other ones going to be like? And so
it's also the crown jewel of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming, not having seen any of them.
Yeah, although I should get back, because I want to watch, because I know Remembrance they fixed with CG they fixed the misspelled Foreman on the door
good.
of the scrapyard. So I want to see it just for that. So.
Just for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I hope to get it's good. It's a busy week this coming week for me. So but hopefully I can watch that, because there's some good stuff on there. So plastic still on yours, Chris, I can assume, or
yes, it is.
Okay. Where are you at now in Blu-ray, Doctor Who Blu-ray land? Then are you
Doctor Who Blu-ray land?
Yeah,
Doctor Who
because you go through one entirely and then you cut the plastic on the next one and then go to that. So
generally,
yeah.
Still only 8 episodes through Blake 7. So once Blake 7 is done, then I'll move on to I don't know, because I've got the Whittaker Blu-ray box set as well as season 25 to go through. So one or the other will be the next one. I haven't decided which.
Mm-hmm. Well, best of luck to you. Hopefully they'll get one of them or both of them done by the time season 7 comes out in North America on June 3rd.
That's 2.5 months, so maybe.
Probably not, and that one's going to sit in plastic. Anyway, Calgary Expo. There were 3 Doctor Who guests at Calgary Expo at one point, but now there's just Catherine Tate, because both Jodie Whittaker and Mandip Gill have had to pull out of Calgary Expo, which is going to happen the last weekend in April, which pretty much seals us going to it. We go,
even though that's 3 hours away and in Canada.
Yeah, right. I know, but it's also like, hopefully,
why bother? Yeah,
in
exactly.
in playoff territory for the Oilers, and also it's in the midst of Doctor Who, because it'll be week 2-3 of Doctor Who at that point. So yeah, as is customary, the canceled guest is forced to do a phone video saying sorry, I can't be there, which is what Jodie Whittaker did. Mandip Gill, she was cast in a show recently. What was it now? Radio Times announced it. I saw. I can't remember what it was. 2nd or 3rd season of a show. We talked about this on
the one with Don French. Dawn
French's show. There we go. That's one. So maybe that was why she had to pull out. And then Jodie Whittaker's shooting something now too, which is has had
new Doctor Who.
That's
She's coming back.
She's coming back. Chibnall's coming. Actually, Chibnall's doing a new show. He's doing. He wrote a book, and now that book has been optioned into a series. So
I have pre-ordered that book, so it'll be coming. I think it's released in July or August or something like that. But anyway, when it gets released, I'm getting it. So
well, look at that. Former Doctor Who's doing stuff.
I like to support former showrunners in their literary pursuits.
That's true, especially ones that have appeared on this podcast.
There's only 3 of them, and 2 of them have. So yeah,
there you go. You got to
So if Moffat wrote a book, I'd get that too. Well, I guess he has Day of the Doctor, so I have that one as well. So
there you are. So yeah, you're welcome, Moffat. Best of luck.
It's all our doing somehow.
Yeah. A couple big finish notes before we get on to the interview with Steven Swaby from Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder. There's a new Doctor Who 6th Doctor adventure coming out called The Cosmos and Mrs. Clark. Not McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which showed up on Canopy recently, the Robert Altman film from 1972, I think it was, which I have never seen and I want to, and that showed up and I want to watch that now. I know this is with Colin Baker and Miranda Raisin, of course, coming out in May of 2025. There's no artwork yet. We cannot try and guess what happens in it, other than Miranda Raisin is in it, along with Colin Baker.
Mm-hmm. And Katie Manning is Iris Wildtime.
Katie Manning is Iris Wildtime, exactly. The Dalek is voiced by Nicholas Briggs.
What a shock. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So that's coming in May. We can speculate, however, on the artwork for Doctor Who Past Forward, a 7th Doctor adventure coming out in June of 2025, which features, alarmingly enough, Harry Sullivan and Naomi.
Who's a 7th Doctor companion now, apparently.
She is, isn't she? Naomi Cross.
No, Harry Sullivan is. Apparently.
As played by Christopher Daly.
In the blurb, it says the Doctor's been traveling with Harry Sullivan and Naomi Cross, which is presumably a big Finnish concoction.
It is
for some time now. So I guess whoever the new Harry Sullivan is, Christopher Naylor, I guess it says here.
Yeah.
So Harry Sullivan has been re-upped as a companion of the 7th Doctor, which is kind of a neat idea, which you can clearly do in Big Finish, so why not?
In the Big Finish story generator, just spin the wheel and go, okay, 7th Doctor and Harry Sullivan. All right, there we go. Also, Ray is coming back.
Sarah Griffiths. Yep.
Yeah, Sarah Griffiths played Ray back in 1987 in Delta and the Bannerman, and she's back, and it's about time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Anyway, that all happens in Doctor Who Past Forward, coming in June from Big Finish.
Would-be companion Sarah Griffiths.
That's true. Yeah.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Also, I'd like to read out this little summary of one of the episodes. A billionaire's birthday party on a super yacht is setting for the final battle with the angels, and the Doctor is on the guest list. I hope that billionaire dies, because I just hope most billionaires die.
There are no good billionaires. There are none. Last bit of news, sadly, Simon Fisher-Becker has passed away at the age of 63. Simon Fisher-Becker, of course, played Doria Moldovar in one scene in whatever episode that was way back when. But
Good Man Goes to War, maybe?
Good Man Goes to War, had such an impression that he kept getting asked back and reprising the character and playing a larger part. They even chopped his head off and put him in a box, and he was still like, basically his question was the question hidden in plain sight throughout eternity. Doctor Who was like the end of a whole season of Doctor Who.
It's a little too self-referential, but still fun to hear. So.
Yeah, and he what was great about Simon is that he just relished that. Like he was on our first ever live show on the main stage at Gallifrey 1 in 2012. Yeah.
What a friendly fella too.
He was so friendly to everyone at convention. Like, he would. I mean, I Facebook friended him as I did it a lot more at the time, and every year I looked back through my Facebook messages.
Same here.
He'd send me a little actual message on Facebook Messenger when it was my birthday. It's like
my parents were watching one of their cozy murder shows on I can't remember which one on PBS, and he shows up in the said cozy murder show, and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. And my parents were like blown away by this. I'm like, nothing against the guy, but I was like, well, this is a guy who's a regular actor. Yeah, of course this is what we interact with, so it's not that big a deal, but they seem to think it was a very big deal, so that's kind of cool.
Well, it was a big deal. He was a very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Yeah, he was a lovely fellow. Yeah.
He really was.
Yeah.
Wrote several books about his experience at Doctor Who and everything else, and just really lapped it up, and good for him. Good for him. He brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and I hope that his friends and family know that. So, all right, that's it. That is it for our news, everyone. After this very short break, I sit down with a curator of the Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder, Steven Swaby. Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder, where science meets fiction, is an exhibit that has toured the world, and now, starting March 15th, it begins a year-long residency at the Comic-Con Museum in San Diego. The exhibit's curator, Steven Swaby, joins me now. Hello, Steven.
Hi, Stephen. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here, Steven. It's good to have someone with the same name on the podcast. Well, for those that don't know, what is Worlds of Wonder, where science meets fiction, the Doctor Who exhibit?
Yeah, so this is a new type of exhibition for Doctor Who, really. There's been obviously many over the years, but this was the first time the BBC did something that had a sort of an educational link. And it really came off of the back of Sana International and the BBC working on the Doctor Who experience together for many years, which ran in London and Cardiff. And then when that ran its course, they felt it was time to look at things from a fresh angle. So although it does involve lots of props and costumes from the show, there's an educational element to the organisation of the exhibition too.
So what's your role as you're a curator, right? That's your official role. What does that sort of entail?
Yeah, so they tell me everybody's a curator these days, aren't they?
Right.
But I was lucky enough as sort of a card-carrying Doctor Who fan to get the call from Sana because they knew I was really into the show. And I've worked with them on a number of other projects, and they said, would you like to do this one? So I immediately dropped everything I was doing and said, yes, please. So that was in about 2018, 2019, and we had the first conversation.
Mm-hmm. And it was in Liverpool and I think New Zealand as well. Has it been anywhere else since it started?
Yes, in between those two, it went to Edinburgh, the National Museum of Scotland, where it was very well received. So it's been to 3 venues so far, and Comic Con's the 4th and the first time in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Comic-Con seemed to be the natural location for such a thing. What was that? Was that the preferred destination for its first North American?
It certainly
release?
Was. Yeah, I think it feels like Doctor Who's spiritual home in the States. So we were delighted that Comic-Con took up the opportunity to host the exhibition, and for a year too. So lots of people get to see it.
Mm-hmm. So what is your job then as quote unquote curator then?
Well, I had the pleasurable task of actually writing the exhibition and putting together all of the exhibits. So I came up with a concept and chatted that through with the designers at Sana, who are very good at immersive exhibitions. And then with the BBC, we had a scoot round the prop store at its secret location in the UK. And we were able to act like kids in a candy store and walk around this warehouse just choosing stuff that we felt fitted the brief for the topics that we're covering the exhibition. So putting it together was just a joy, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to get to the Doctor Who experience in 2015 in Cardiff when it was there. And it was magical. How do you sort of transport that on the road out, that's got to take more than a couple freight trucks, I'm thinking.
It's a very complex operation, and thankfully I'm not involved in that side of it. My colleagues, Sana, have to deal with all the logistics of shipping stuff out and making sure it's all safe and in tip-top condition for when it's actually displayed again. And obviously some of these props are quite old now, so they need a bit of TLC to make sure they're still display worthy.
Mm-hmm. What kind of props are the most notable props that you'll see on this?
I was really determined to show stuff across the whole range of the show, so not just the 21st century incarnation. So we've got stuff that goes way back. Obviously, the further back you go, the more difficult it is to locate some of those original items. They've either disappeared, been destroyed, or they're in private hands. But we wanted to get a good range of monster costumes, props, and sonic screwdrivers. Just a really broad range of different items from the show's history.
Mm-hmm. The educational aspect is as you say, it's different from the Doctor Who experience. What sort of goes into planning an exhibit of let's face it, a fantastical show based in science, but basing an exhibit around an educational bent?
Yeah, I just started with a list, really thinking about what kind of topics did the show use as inspiration points over the years, and that quickly grew to quite a long list. So in a way, they were the poles that I tethered it to, thinking about, okay, let's explore AI, for instance, let's explore environmental science, and then you immediately start linking different stories from different doctors to those particular topics. So that then led on to, okay, let's look for X, Y, or Z prop. So everything kind of joined up, really. And I think the biggest challenge is obviously you're dealing with such a vast span of time, 60 years of television. There's a huge amount of content there. So we had to be realistic about what we could actually fit in the dimensions of the exhibition itself. So we were spoilt for choice.
Yeah, although I imagine there also has to be a visual, indicator. It needs to be visually appealing and actually represent something that exists. I mean, as one does. I was just watching Robot, Tom Baker's first story, after 50 years of its original broadcast, and the Doctor goes to Professor Kettlewell talking about your pioneering work in solar panels and wind energy, and like that was 1975, and that seems even more relevant today, but how do you bring that across when all you mostly have is the giant robot costume?
I think it helps having a few different interviews with real scientists as well, which we had a great cast of people that we called upon to actually talk about Doctor Who science in the real world. We have people like Clifford Johnson, who's an English professor based in California, Professor Kevin Pong, and Maggie Aderin Pocock as well, who's one of the hosts of the Sky at Night and the BBC over here. So most of these people are also Doctor Who fans as well, or were inspired by Doctor Who as children. So there was a lot of affection for the show when we chatted to them, and I think doors opened very quickly with scientists. They were very keen to talk to us.
Even American and North American scientists as well, were they keen to get involved?
I had a couple who didn't return my calls, but they shall remain nameless.
They don't know what they're missing. Basically.
I bet they regret it now. That's all I'll say.
Exactly. The exhibit sort of split up into 8 different zones within. What is in each zone, and how is it sort of separated out like that?
Yeah, very broadly speaking, those 8 zones sort of run across 2 halves. The first half looks at technology and space science, and then the second half of the exhibition really looks at biological sciences and environmental sciences. So there's a very clear delineation between the two, but obviously within those 8 zones, we're able to explore in more detail things like the TARDIS console room, where we've got the replica of the original console as the centerpiece, which was used in An Adventure in Space and Time, and then I think the 50th anniversary too, and since. So there's those kind of anchors there. But then there's just a really good excuse to do museums type displays of the props and costumes based around some of the topics from each of those zones. In Zone 4, for instance, the Cosmic Curiosity Zone, which looks at space science, the science of black holes and things like that. We had a chance to use the Omega costume from the 80s, the Peter Davison version, and it's being able to reveal to people that that black hole science was in its infancy when Bob Baker and Dave Martin came up with the idea of Omega in the early 70s, and it's a good example of looking at new scientists or the scientific dialogues of the day and being inspired by those things to create something in Doctor Who. So I think that's a good example.
It is. I mean, I don't know if it's part of the exhibit either, but like the idea of the dinosaurs being killed off by a giant meteorite was a relatively new idea when Earthshock was made in 1982. It's fascinating to watch Doctor Who progress with the times as science, theories are basically hatched, within months of the episode being made.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, in terms of warnings about the environment as well, that, that's been there since the 60s. You think of William Hartnell's era, way back, Planet of the Giants warns about pesticides and the threat to the natural world. So these things have been there for a very long time in the program.
Mm-hmm. There's always been an educational remit.
Exactly. Yeah. It's smuggled in a lot of the time, and obviously it can play fast and loose with science too. But I think there's a kernel of truth to a lot of the concepts behind that.
Mm-hmm. There's also monsters too. Let's face it. There's Daleks and Weeping Angels and everything else. Like there has to be a monster gallery, right?
It would have been a dereliction of duty not to have done that. Absolutely, Stephen. And that to me was one of the greatest pleasures. Was getting the Monster Vault together. And this rogues gallery of most of our favourites from the classic series and a few from the new series too. So pulling that part of it together and looking at kind of the inspiration points of things like Cybermen, Daleks, Ice Warriors and Sontarans, things like that. There were legitimate scientific topics you can hang that on. And some people were surprised to learn that, back in the 60s when the Cybermen were first created, Kit Pedler, a scientist, was very much instrumental in developing the concept of the Cybermen, which have been, an incredibly popular foe and are still with us today.
Mm-hmm. What did any? I mean, you've obviously seen these props up close now for a few years now, but did any of these, like, especially the vintage props, sort of surprise you in their makeup and their construction and how I don't know, less or more terrifying perhaps they were in person?
Well, you mentioned the K1 robot earlier, and seeing that up close for the first time was really impressive. It's this hulking piece of armor. So that was a nice surprise, and I definitely got a little bit of a buzz seeing the Morbius costume because being a child of the 70s, I was sort of spoon fed on the Tom Baker stories. So there was a lot of resonance to me to see that up close for the first time as well.
Mm-hmm. It's shocking that some of these things still exist, really.
It is incredible, yeah.
Yeah, leaving aside the scientific aspect, just the fact that you're marveling at these things, which were not meant to survive for 50 years. They were meant to just get through 2 weeks of shooting at BBC Television Centre, and they're still with us today.
Absolutely. Some of these things were infinitely disposable, and some of the items I would have loved to have shown just simply don't exist anymore. But we were very lucky with people like Mike Tucker as well, who was one of the mainstays of visual effects on the show in the 70s and 80s. He managed to dig out the models from Sharda that he'd made of the spacecraft, which are these really, beautiful, intricate little models. And so we've been able to display those too.
Mm-hmm. Is there a weeping angel in the exhibit?
Yes, there certainly is. Yep. Again, that would be another dereliction of duty not to include at least one of those. Yep.
And how many people walk by that and are terrified to blink? Do you see the reactions of people at these things?
It's really noticeable. You can spot the fans straight away. There's definitely a certain amount of hesitation from parents and children alike, I'd say.
Oh, that's splendid. The Comic-Con Museum and all its wonders will be hosting Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder, where science meets fiction, starting March 15th, which is yesterday as this episode comes out. Goes on for an entire calendar year. I'm hoping to get to San Diego Comic-Con this year. I keep promising to make it so, and hopefully this will be the year that happens. And I hope to be there. What can you tell people about the opening of the exhibit in March? Is there anything special going on?
Yeah, well, we've got a few new things for San Diego as well, which I won't reveal, but there are new costumes and new props that haven't been seen before. So there is some fresh material for Comic-Con, which you'll be able to see from the 15th onwards. Yeah. Very
exciting. Well, as I said, I hope to get down there to see it within a year. I've got a year to do it. There's plenty of time. So, but at the very least, you've given me a very tantalizing glimpse into it. So, thank you, Steven Swaby, for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Stephen. As I said at the outset, I hope to get there. Maybe Gallifrey 1. Going to go there early because next year's Gallifrey 1 is, of course, earlier. February 6th to 8th.
Yeah.
Which, and so we've been going on the Monday or Tuesday for the past couple of years, and my birthday is February 3rd. I don't want to be traveling on my birthday. That's no fun. So I imagine we might be getting to LA a couple days earlier, and I would like to make one of those days a trip down to San Diego to go see that. So
I have a modest request for America. Could you keep it together till then, please? I'm not asking for much here.
That's a good point. I mean, it changes day to day, doesn't it? I mean, who knows? Who knows what America's going to be like come February?
Might be the 12th province of Canada or whatever.
Territory. As I joke to people, no, you're a territory. You gotta work your way up. All right, talk to Nunavut if you want to get a seat at the table because they were last in. So,
in fact, they're in charge of you now.
Yes, I agree.
And that's coming up on 26 years. So.
April 1st, 1999, creation of our third territory, and thus making life hell for all the Canadian calendar makers out there who for many decades had it so good making a province and or territory for every month of the year. Suddenly we had a 13th to work.
and by the way,
at least since 1949 anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
By the way, if you're curious about Canada's North, just watch, if you have access to Gem or otherwise, watch North is North on CBC Gem and on CBC, because it's pretty damn funny, and it's all about a woman who lives up north and her travails.
And it's shot up north too. Like, where is it shot? Yellowknife or
mostly indigenous cast, from what I can tell.
That's awesome. I know. I kept seeing ads for it, and I think, you know what? This looks charming. This looks charming and fun.
There's a great scene where she's at the seal hunt and she's underwater, and then she sees this sort of Inuit goddess who just looks at her and goes, "You loser," and takes off, which is great. That's awesome. Hilarious.
And of course, our freshly minted prime minister is from the Northwest Territories.
That's true. Mark Carney, born in Fort Smith, where I was going to play a music festival, drumming for a band in Hay River, I think, but then sadly forest fires canceled the festival. Otherwise, that spared me a 13-hour drive up to there at that point.
I mean, there's a pile of Canada I haven't been to, and current circumstances being what they are, I have always been intrigued by going to the Yukon, going to Nunavut, all that stuff. Yeah. It'd be a pain to get there, but it can be worth doing in the summer.
Let's do it. RFS live from Yellowknife.
From some community center.
Yes, we'll do it in July. And what we'll do basically a 24-hour marathon because the sun will never set on June 21st.
So you can watch Doctor Who in your least optimal conditions.
In Yellowknife.
Which you can actually honestly do for a chunk of time in Edmonton. You do lose the sun, but not for a long time. No, late June in Edmonton, let me tell you, I've literally read, I've read off a computer screen, let's face it, I don't read books, but I've literally sat on my balcony at like 11 p.m. and read things. Oh, I've totally done that.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool. But come to Edmonton, everyone. We're not hosting a Doctor Who convention or anything like that, but just come to Edmonton. If you want. Not now.
Just be our friends, please.
It's freezing cold in the middle of March, but come in summer. It's great summer.
Summer when it's pushing 40 Celsius.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, and we're braving wildfire smoke because that's the new reality we live in too. But anyway, hey, if you enjoyed that Canadian talk, well, guess what? We are adding a quarter more Canadian next week. Graham Burke, a good friend, Graham Burke, is coming by the show to talk about just stuff because it's going to be a banter episode, but it's the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who coming back in 2005 next week. So we're going to bring on Graham, who of course he was involved, he was sort of a talking head on Space way back when, and so
the CBC series that was produced when they were airing at Planet of the Doctor. He and the Toronto Tavern folks were very heavily involved with that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So, it'll be the 20th anniversary of Modern Who, but from a Canadian perspective, because that's what we like to do here is Canada's preeminent Doctor Who podcast. So that is to come next week. Looking forward to talking to Graham. It's been a long time on this podcast. So join us then, won't you? So in between time, I screwed it up. In the meantime and in between time, I am Steven in Edmonton.
Or in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.